Follow Paddy Power on Snapchat. The username is the Paddy Power, and we promise there won't be any boring snaps about gigs, the weather, or the gym.
Hello and welcome to this Monday Postcast. I'm Maddie Plell, joined in the studio, full studio by Stuart Riley and Tom Park, and we have Binners. Binners is back on the Postcast from Paddy Power. What a weekend. Surname, Clanders, Obeaux. So many Cheltenham clues. Our Dancer won the Betfair Hurdle. Where on earth do we start? Let's start with Surname then. Star of the show, Parky. You were telling me before we went live, you think he would beat Altior.
Yes, I do. I don't think I've seen a better jumping performance that's blown me away like that anyway since Fortuna won his JLT. The way that he just ran at his fences, gobbled them up, and they were really good horses behind him. If you take him out the race, I think Paul Nicholls touched on it. You take him out the race, waiting patient, everything's ran to form, and he's just absolutely mullered them. Look, if he was mine, I'd be looking at Cheltenham because as I said, I think that he reminds me a bit of Fortuna now. Obviously, this improvement's come really fast, so there's a chance that people are going to go, oh well, it's just at Ascot. I'm not so sure. I think he's just improving on no end, and I think if he turns up in that kind of form at the King George on Boxing Day, then it's a formality really, with Altior or without Altior. Okay,
Stu, I love Surname, love the performance, enjoying it for what it is, but Graham Rodway thinks there was something smelly about his last performance and this one. And I've got to admit, there's something I'm not quite sure about as well. I just don't know. I mean, he was beaten in a handicap at the track. Does he need to lead? Does he need Ascot? What do you make of it all?
I sat here and crabbed him after he won the handicap off a mark of 150. I don't think there's any crabbing what he did on Saturday. I was at Ascot. I covered the race for the paper and spoke to connections afterwards. Harry Cobden, interestingly enough, gave a glimmer of hope for Cheltenham fans, sort of suggesting he wouldn't be adverse to giving him another go left-handed. However, the horse's owner was fairly adamant that Cheltenham won't come into considerations. He's pretty strong on the fact that he needs to go right-handed. It's right-handed that's the key to him rather than Ascot or any given ground conditions. And you know, you look through his form, it holds up. I mean, the owner himself pointed out that he was seventh in a handicap hurdle, beaten out of sight at the beginning of last season. And admittedly, that was a run before he went novice chasing, so it was a first up effort over hurdles. But I mean, he was absolutely thumped round Chepstow, and obviously that's left-handed. Right-handed does seem to be the key to him. I was very impressed by what he did on Saturday. I think the winning margin probably did flatter him in the sense that if you got a better jump out of waiting patiently at the second last, I think that knocked the stuffing out of him. He was coming with a challenge, and I don't think he would have been on terms. I spoke to Ruth Jefferson afterwards. She didn't think so either, but I think he would have been a lot closer than 17 lengths. So I think you're looking at it was a proper performance. He beat all the right horses. I think he is a very, very talented horse, and it was very impressive to watch.
Okay, Binners. Now, plenty of markets for him in the future. The Ryanair, he's unlikely to go there, but we might as well mention it anyway. And then Parky's mentioned next year's King George. Can we get some prices on those?
Yeah, certainly can, Maddie. The Ryanair, yeah, not entered. They do seem to think he's right-handed horse. The Ryanair, we've still got Min in at 5-2 favourite, and then Monolly at 9-2, who was good at the weekend as well. 5 foot pads set and it's 7 bar. But for the King George, that's the one we really did cut him for. Immediately after the race, we went 4 from 16. We've had a little bit of a rethink now, and we've pushed him out to 11-2, but he's still vying for favouritism with Clanders Obeaux, who we're going to come on to in a minute, who's 5-1, and Altior at 6-1. So we could be in for a Christmas crackerjack.
We could, and that was a lovely segue there into Clanders Obeaux. Bolstered his Cheltenham Gold Cup credentials really nicely, Parky. I mean, you couldn't have been anything other than impressed. I'm not sure the horses behind him were necessarily superstars, but what more could he have done?
No, but look, I think Terrafort ran pretty much to his level, really, and he's not a bad horse at all. After the King George, I was kind of the opinion that it was possibly a fluke the way that Clanders Obeaux won it, because he looked like he won it so easily. But actually, watching him on Saturday, I think just the way that he runs as well, I think he's going to turn into he's already a big Gold Cup horse, but people are questioning whether the stamina is going to be an issue. I'm not quite sure it is. He seems to race behind the bridle. He travels really well, but he doesn't travel too well. So he's not giving anything away. And he just seems to pick the bridle back up whenever he needs to, really. Look, the horse that maybe got the form boosted was Thistlecrack, because actually, after the King George, I know you love him, but I've never been on the Thistlecrack fan club, really, but look, I thought he ran he had them all at it in the King George. And I think if Tom Scudamore had his chance again, maybe, knowing what we know now about Clanders Obeaux, whether he'd have tried to hold on to him a little bit longer. The trip, I don't think, is a problem with Thistlecrack either in the Gold Cup, but it would be his jumping that could possibly find him out.
So you Gold Cup, you Clanders Obeaux, Thistlecrack, what do you think?
I think the Gold Cup now, this King George looks like it's been a very good race. And we've got a horse who is heading the market at a very short price, who has not run over fences this season. And as much as I love presenting Percy, and I think he is a really good horse, I just can't have him at 9-4 for the Gold Cup when he's not had a run over fences. And whether he runs at the weekend, I'm not sure. But even still, he's not going to have had he's not going to run anything like to what Clanders Obeaux's done. And there are a few in there. I think this is a good Gold Cup this year. I think Native River, if the ground's soft, will be bang there. If it's not soft, he might just. I think there's some class horses in, and the one horse that I wouldn't rule out besides Clanders Obeaux and Thistlecrack is Bell's Hill, because I think the Willie Mullins yard, I get the impression that they think
Still never won it, have they?
I get the impression they think this horse is very good, and it could be that we've just not seen the best of Bell's Hill yet.
Okay.
I'd put a line through his Cheltenham runs before. I think he was bang there in the RSA. He was beaten by Freak on the day, and his first run at Cheltenham, his first run over hurdles at Cheltenham, he was in the Supreme, which was far too short a trip for him. And I think once Ruby Walsh nails his colours to whatever, I think he'll pick Bell's Hill, and he'd probably be a single figure price then.
Okay, Stu, going back to Clanders Obeaux, let's focus on that performance itself. What was the atmosphere like at Ascot, and what sort of nuggets did you get from the fallout?
I was very impressed by Clanders Obeaux. The thing that really impressed me was his jumping, because he doesn't seem to. He's very economical. He didn't take very much out of himself. It was almost like he ghosted through the fence. Like, he just didn't look like he had picked his legs up at all. Like, he just got from one side to the other, took lengths out of his rivals, and just sort of didn't look like it was taking anything out of him. He just sort of popped from one side to the other. It wasn't the effort that you normally see for a horse jumping. That really impressed me. He looks to have a serious engine on him. The one worry that I would have with him, and I'm not sure that this necessarily applies to him as a horse, but there's been an awful lot of horses come down the hill looking like a Gold Cup winner, round that bend looking like a Gold Cup winner, and not get up the hill.
Yeah.
And he has that very strong travelling style. So I can remember speaking to Harry Cobden after the King George, and he said then, I didn't want to get there too soon.
Yeah.
I was trying to hold on to him all the way up the straight. And that, when it comes to Cheltenham, just raises a little bit of a question mark for me, because it's not the
If he does hit the front and he's going to idle, then something's going to come past him, isn't it?
Yeah. So I think there's one factor that he has overwhelmingly in his favour, given how strongly he travels, is if there is another horse in the race that can tow him away from the others, it won't be as much of an issue. Because if, like in the King George, they can separate themselves, if, like in last year's Gold Cup, obviously Might Bite and Native River, got themselves clear of the others, that if he's only got one horse to see off over the last, then I think he'll do it, because he'll idle, but he'll hold that horse up. If they're coming to the last and there's 5 or 6 in it, the fact that he idles could make it a very nervous run-in.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I do as well. And about the staying, I mean, lots of people are saying they have doubts about him at Cheltenham. I mean, he couldn't beat Guitar Pete over there. I know that was a handicap, and it was still a good run, but, you know, would you be hoping that he'd already been there and done it?
I mean, Long Run got beaten in a...
He did?
Wasn't a Gold Cup at the time, and went on and won a Gold Cup.
Yeah,
You have to judge these Nicholls horses at the moment. We've just been saying with Surnames, you can't compare what he's done previously. You've got to compare his last 2 performances, and with Clanders Obeaux, he's improved no end from when he was running at Cheltenham last time.
They've always thought a lot of him as well. They talked him up when he was in a juvenile hurdler, they were talking him up as sort of one of the next big things. And then it's taken him a little while to maybe grow into himself and mature. But the vibes around him have always been that they thought he was a very good horse.
I slightly disagree with Stu with regards to it. I think he travels well, but he's not. I'm not looking at him thinking he's going too hard there or he's travelling too powerfully, which you can often say about.
So well after the last,
impressive
didn't he?
The way he went away. Yeah, he really put distance into Terrafort after the last. You know, they
he did the same in the King George as well, where he kind of he looked in trouble turning in.
Yeah.
He like travelled really nicely through the race, and you could pick him out from a mile out watching the race back. Thistlecrack went clear, and all of a sudden Thistlecrack was still like on the bridle, and Clanders Obeaux struggling a little bit behind, but then he just picked the bit back up. It could be that he's just improved.
Yeah, he does travel sort of behind the bridle like that. Before we get too sucked into this, Binners, what price is Clanders Obeaux now for the Gold Cup? I'm sure plenty be ploughing into him now.
Yeah, they have been actually, Maddie. Immediately after the race, we went 6 from 8 for the Gold Cup. He's now 4 to 1, so there's been further money. People obviously listening to Paul Nicholls and Harry Cobden. But my one concern personally would be he was good on Saturday, but he did have £11 in hand over Terrafort on official ratings, and he did what he was supposed to do.
That's very true.
It's true, but when you get people like Paul Barber saying this is a very good horse, then you have to take up and take notice, and that's what punters have done.
Yeah, you do, and like we've mentioned, Paul Nicholls has always managed this horse as if he's delivering him to peak and as if he's handled him with care to get him to this point. So it'll be great to see him on Gold Cup Day. Quick, anything to add from either of you?
Yeah, the point you've just made is a good one. I think very few horses are born to win a Gold Cup. Gold Cup winners are generally made, and this horse does have the feel of a horse who has been brought to the boil. The other thing I would like to just make the point of is Harry Cobden's never ridden in a Gold Cup before. He's a young jockey, and that could be used in the build-up as a question mark to put over Clanders Obeaux. I'm not having that. He is sensational. I haven't seen anyone who reminds me of Ruby Walsh as much as this kid. He is such a good rider, and to me, he's a massive positive. Yes, he's never ridden in a Gold Cup before, but I don't think that is something that you can use against the horse.
No, I totally agree. I think he's so cool as well. You look at even the post-race interviews. He's just ridden Surname plans, so he's so chilled out.
What he did in the King George was so impressive for a young rider to come there and go, no, I'm going to take a pull going to the last in the King George. That was a very calm decision. I was very impressed with that, and I think he's a massive bonus to this horse's chance because he believes in the horse so much and he knows him very well.
Yeah, just totally very quickly. Agree. Lots of other good jockeys coming through as well, which I'm sure we'll mention later.
Just very quickly, put to bed all these he's rubbish at Cheltenham and stuff. If that race, Terrafort v Clanders Obeaux, happened in November, the betting was 2-5 Clanders Obeaux, 2-1 Terrafort, or 3-1 Terrafort. It probably would have been the other way around on their first run of the season, given that Terrafort was favourite for the Hennessy and had won a Grade 1 at Aintree last year. He was like the talking horse coming through from the novice ranks last year. Clanders Obeaux kind of emerged as a Gold Cup horse. It just shows how much he's actually improved.
Yeah, right, our dancer's our next port of call. We're going to try and rattle through these so quickly because there's so much to mention. Is he your supreme winner, Parky?
Yes, I backed Fakir, however you pronounce it. I backed him, yes, at 12-1 a couple of weeks ago. And I got a bit of the 7-1 after Saturday because I thought that he's got the Cheltenham form there in the bag, and that is by far the best novice performance I think we've seen. I think Angel's Breath, as good as he looked, he has only jumped a few hurdles. Fakir, he's obviously going to get a lot of weight, and he was very impressive at Cheltenham.
4-year-olds don't have an amazing record in the Supreme, do they?
No, but binocular.
Binocular. Yeah, all right, Stu.
He didn't win though.
No, he was.
Oh, was he? Right.
Yeah. But I think that Al Dancer, look, he travelled really nicely, and what impressed me was the way that he jumped that last hurdle and just quickened away from any danger. I think that the winner will probably be one of them two, but don't discount that other Nicholls winner at Wincanton Grand and Swansea, because that to beat giving So Royal weight Admittedly, probably he's got bigger fish to fry at Cheltenham, so Royal over fences. But he'd have been fit enough for that, and that was a good performance, and he could just be the one that slips under the radar, really.
Yeah, what a crazy weekend for Paul Nicholls. Stu, going back to Ascot and Al Dancer, he tanked his way throughout the whole race. I don't think he dropped his head at any point, and I'm not sure if there's any truth in this saying that Willie Twiston-Davies has said he's the best horse they've ever had in the yard. But did you hear any of that?
I didn't hear that, but if that's true, then he's some horse, isn't he? Because they've had a few
the
good
new
ones.
one.
Imperial Commander.
Yeah.
You know, it's a long list of good horses that they've had at the Twiston-Davies operation. I was very impressed with him. I thought it was very good. I quite often get sucked into Betfair Hurdle novices going into the Supreme. I like that sort of hardened handicap form. I like the fact that they've actually proven a level of ability, and you know, I'm fairly confident I'll get sucked into this fella as well. It was a very impressive win. Those horses do tend to, you know, I mean, they may not have the greatest record of getting over the line. Kalashnikov got B. I think Get Me Out of Here was similar. You know, but they've all run very big races, and I think he's it'll be very difficult to see him out the places in the Supreme. As Parky mentioned, the Wincanton effort of Grand Sancy I thought was very impressive. To win in open company against older horses is more seasoned horses is some really strong form. I thought that was a good run as well. And you know, of the two of them, at the prices they currently are, I might even be more tempted to lean towards Grand Sancy. I thought that was very good. I think, put it this way, you wouldn't look down the Supreme betting and think there are too many in there that you'd pick out as being able to beat a horse as good as So Royale. So yeah, I was very impressed with both of them this weekend. It was good stuff.
The fact that he's done it at Cheltenham as well is a big bonus. For a horse he's kind of ticked a lot of boxes now. He's won it in as Stu said, a hard handicap like that, where you kind of need to have a bit of toughness about you that you're going to get in the Supreme. But to do it at Cheltenham as well,
he's looking a bit more bomb-proof than a lot of the others, isn't he? Binners, any prices on our dancer for the Supreme? And thanks to the lads for mentioning Grand Sancy, so we've got that covered as well.
Yes, Maddie. Well, our dancer went 4-1 joint favourite with Fakir Dairy immediately after Saturday's contest. Further support for our dancer. He carried a lot of weight on Saturday. It was, as you guys have already said, a marvellous performance. He's now 7-2, clear favourite. Grand Sancy for Paul Nicholls. Lovely to see Harry Skelton teaming up with his old boss. Another impressive performance, but you can have 14-1 about that one. So perhaps Stuart's right. Perhaps that is the value in the Supreme market.
Okay, so some of the others I've got on my list that I want us to go through are Keldestan, Shades of Midnight, Robbinsworth, Listener Garnet, Oscar, Magic Saint, lots of others at Ascot, Mr. Malarkey as well, he was quite nice, but I do want to throw a bit of a left field one out there. If we go back to Robbinsworth, who Sean Bowen, what a ride that was, and we also consider that Tiger Roll won yesterday. Grand National Picture, folks, have we got a fancy at this stage? Am I being too nasty?
As you know, I've been all over vintage crowds all year, so it was not very nice to see an old favourite of mine, Tiger Roll, winning a race as easily as he did when he was probably only half fit.
75%, wasn't it?
75% fit, yes, according to Elliot. I didn't think Tiger Roll I thought he was too small to win the National last year. He took to the course so well. I thought he was a bit too high in the ratings this year. And now I'm thinking,
he gets 11 stone and 1 pound, I think it is.
Exactly, yeah. I mean, now I'm thinking, I don't know what beats him really at entry. I've backed vintage clouds all year. I've had a little bit on Tiger Roll's stable rate, Noble Endeavour. I think that he's got that class if he was to bounce back, and he didn't run too badly last time. And the other one that I like is Give Me a Copper, who I think's entered on Saturday, but I'm very keen.
Seems to be keen on him.
Yeah, I'm very keen on him for the Ultima. He's been really well backed now, but yeah, I'm very keen on his Ultima chances. And if he was to win that impressively or run well in that, I know he's only run I think 3 or 4 times over fences, and I think he's fallen and unseating in 2 of them. But he looked like he jumped like a stag at Sandown. And
it's a lot of money with a big reputation.
Yes, he's got a big reputation, and you've just got Nicholls seems to give the impression that this thing's got bundles in hand. So he would around 33-1. I think he's not without a chance.
Okay, Stu, I know you're at Ascot. Did you catch any Haydock? Do you have any thoughts on the national? Or am I being very harsh on you?
Yeah, I saw a bit of Haydock and Wincanton, etc. down in the parade ring after races, winning connections. Paul Nicholls was having to break off every 2 minutes from all the winners he was having at Ascot, doing an amazing job of all his media obligations, but having half an eye on the big screen and just having winner after winner. So yes, I did get to see them stood in the vicinity of a very animated Paul, who was cheering them all home like a man possessed. I wouldn't have a bet for you at this stage on the Grand National. I think it's one to play closer to the time. You get very decent prices nearer the time, so I'm not that inclined to get involved now and have one not turn up. The horse that I was most impressed with away from Ascot was another Paul Nicholls horse in Quel Destin. I thought that was a cracking run. He's the sort of horse that, I mean, if there's something that's going to beat him in the Triumph Hurdle, they'll have a tough time doing it. I'm not saying that he can't be beaten. Like, he strikes you as the sort of horse that may find something too good, but you've got to love his temperament. He really
impressed me at the weekend.
Yeah, he's very tenacious. I like him as a horse. He battles, he gallops, and he'll take some beating in the Triumph. And Joseph's got half the field, so I'm sure he'll find a way to get it done. But yeah, I think he'll run a big race. I was very impressed by him.
Yeah, Sir Eric is sort of the one that everyone sort of plumped for, but Quel Destin, I was sort of encouraged with the way he flew away from his other horses. Usually he's done it in close finishes, but he really put some distance in between them. Binners, really quickly, a price on Quel Destin for the Triumph now?
Yeah, 8-1 now. Maddie was 14-1 before Saturday's success. Sir Eric, many people's idea of a banker for Cheltenham, the Irish banker, Triumph Hurdle, 11-8 favourite, given a great mention in yesterday's Racing Post by Brian Cooper.
Yeah, fabulous. We have to move on, but before I do, I'll give you another horse or another couple of seconds to talk about whatever you want from the weekend. Parky, I'll go to you first. Anything down on your notes?
I'm going to very quickly bring up the Foxhunter race, which might raise a few eyebrows, but look, there was a few performances at the weekend. Road to Rome was very impressive at Haydock. Cello Conti won again at Navan, and I can't remember a Foxhunter market at this stage where you've got so many serial winners going into the race. The favourite is the McManus horse, Stand Up and Fight, who was second in a Grade 2 hurdle not that long ago. He's only had a couple of starts, but he just keeps winning with Derek O'Connor on board. He's about 9-2 favourite, when in most years, a Bolger-trained horse that's got that kind of profile, he's only a 7-year-old, he'd probably be about 6-4. But it just shows the strength and depth this race has got. And Barry O'Neill won again on Cello Conti, so we're just going through like the really top-class amateur jockeys. Interestingly, Jamie Codd has been riding Cruise Linen all season, which you would imagine would be his hope for Cheltenham, but he is owned by the Rooneys. So whether he gets a chance to run in that race, I wouldn't be so sure. It'll take a change of heart, I think, from the Rooneys to get him there. Yeah,
really interesting thought that, and it will be really interesting Foxhunters this year as well. Stu, anything else from Ascot? I did mention Mr. Malarkey earlier. I don't know if you want to talk about him or one of the other performances.
Yeah, Mr. Malarkey won't be winning at the festival. I wasn't that impressed by the Rendlesham as a race. The horse I'd maybe give just a quick mention to. I thought he travelled with much the old class that we all know he has, was Fox Norton. He emptied.
You love that horse.
Yeah, I do. He's a very talented horse.
I like him.
He's mixed it, trips and mixed it with some of the best around, and he travelled very strongly into the race. He came there going to the second last and then emptied. Now it was sort of mooted beforehand by the Tizard camp that they somewhat expected that to happen. So the fact that he travelled as well as he did to 2 out and nothing was able to live with Surnames from there, he would it'd be a horse that I wouldn't. He didn't lessen his chances in my eyes at the weekend, even though he was beaten a fairly long way by the line, by the winner. He's one that I'll be keeping half an eye on.
Brilliant.
He wasn't beaten that far by Surnames. By waiting patiently either, and he's beaten a good horse in Politolog, so as I said, take Surname out of the race. He's probably ran, I think Stu's right, I think that was pretty much, he's pretty much near back to his best, really.
Could be worth keeping on side for the Ryanair. That will do us for this first segment. We'll be back just after this break to look at some of the weekend's action.
Success ain't earned, it's bought. That's why at Paddy Power, we paid the big bucks for the best tech nerds in the world to develop our new, fastest ever app. Download the new app from the App Store or Play Store now. 18 plus, begambleaware.org.
Welcome back to this Monday Postcast. We've discussed the weekend's action. We'll get on to talking about what's coming up this weekend. Now, 3 main races we're going to look at are the Eider, the Winter Derby and the 888 Sport Handicap Chase at Kempton. First off, we'll stick with the Eider then. Sharp Response Spinners. He's been the one for money in recent days, hasn't he?
He has indeed, Maddie. Yeah, heads the market at 6-1. Clear favourite now. Then we go 7 back to the Thatch, 8 Baywing and De Klondike, 10 Folsom Blue and Ange de Marlborough, and it's 12-1 the rest.
Excellent. Parky, how do you approach a race like the Eider? Could be a lot better ground to what we're used to seeing.
Yes, so I'm going to side with a horse who's going to relish the good ground, and given the Paul Nicholls form, I'm quite keen on Vicenti's chances. Look, the weather's going to be nice all week, so the ground's going to be great for him, which he doesn't always get. And this might just be a little bit easier to win than the likes of a Scottish Grand National, which he's obviously done before. But he runs in these really big summer handicaps, and he's going to get his ground maybe at a different time of year. And he looks quite well handicapped still. I think he's just a very talented horse when it all drops right. I think he's. I'm quite keen on his chances. He's a big price as well. He's around 16-1.
Yeah, that is a big price, and like you say, he's a bit. Maybe he's not really got the credit he deserves because he just sort of does sort of very. He needs his certain conditions to perform, doesn't he? But he's dual Scottish national winner. That's not done easily. Stu, any thoughts on the Eider?
Yes, the 2 I like are Beware the Bear, who I will put up every time we talk about one of these massive staying races because he's tailor-made for them. And the other one that caught my eye is Ange de Marlborough of Dan Skelton's. He's rated 127 now. I think he was rated 94 when he joined the yard. He's just one of those horses on an upward curve. You never know where the ceiling lies with them, and you can always look at it and go, 127. They must have found his limit now. But he's won his last 2. He's won 3 of his last 4. He's definitely going in the right direction. He's with a great trainer, and I can see he's definitely open to more improvement. I've been impressed by the way he's done it. 1 by 5 lengths each the last 2 times. Step up in trip would be in his favour as well. He's got no chance of getting in the race at Kempton. He's the bottom one there, so I think this is where they'll go with him, and everything sort of looks set for him. I think he'll run a big race.
Okay, nice and confident there. Binners, any thoughts from you on this race before I asked you for the Winter Derby betting?
Well, I have been impressed very much with Venetia Williams' horses. They seem in very good form at the moment. Otago Trail, I thought he ran an all right race in the Peter Marsh Chase last time. And got a bit of good ground. Good to soft would be fine for him. He has one on heavy, but I think he's fine on anything. And around the 12-1 mark, that'll do me at this early stage before we see the 5-day and obviously the final decks on Thursday or Friday.
Fabulous. And over to Lingfield then.
Been trying to get that race up, Maddie, and we seem to have a slight problem with it on the website at the moment.
No worries. So, I'm sure we know who's likely to go off favourite anyway.
Wissa Hickon looks definitely like being a short price favourite for John Gosden. I think it was significant that Frankie came home from foreign climates last time to ride him in the Derby trial at Lingfield. The horse did it well, and he's the lads will know more than me, but I'm sure he's going to be very difficult to beat.
Yeah, interesting. Aidan O'Brien's got a hunting horn in there, but Wissa Hickon, he was really impressive in the Cambridgeshire, and I don't know, I'm sort of surprised they've gone this route with him because maybe he's slightly better than this. I don't know, it's easy for him to pick up, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, he looked very good, and this should be a formality, really. There can't have been many Royal Ascot winners that are rated 114 to run in this race like Hunt and Horn is and not be a short price favourite. So he's going to have if Hunt and Horn turns up, he's going to have a good horse to beat. He's been running well offshores. But look, the favourite's going to take all the beating, I'd imagine. Yeah,
horses like Courthouse and Big Country in there as well. Stu, give it a bit of a solid look, but Wissahickon, it's a bit of a formality, isn't it?
It is. The only complication I can see for him is the draw, simply because if they get a half-decent field size, that first bend comes very quickly at mile 2 at Lingfield. They literally are straight out the gate and they're on the turn. So if you get drawn wide, it can be a bit of a headache. That said, he looks a very classy horse, and I think the reason they've probably gone down this route is it wouldn't surprise me if John Gosden has international aspirations with this horse later in the year, and getting some all-weather experience into him through the winter is by no means a bad idea. So yeah, I think he's definitely the most likely winner of the race. The draw would be the only question mark I can come up with, but that aside, yeah, he looks a very worthy favourite.
Yeah, valid question mark at that, so we'll be interested to see how that all works out. Good if Wissahickon can go on to better things, and that's certainly one of interest for the future. We'll move on to the feature at Kempton, which is at 3:35. It's the 8/8 Sport Handicap Chase, a Grade 3, as we mentioned, previously known as the Racing Post Chase. Glen Rocco, Binners, is he your favourite at the minute?
Indeed, Maddie. Yeah, 11-4 clear favourite, quite a bit shorter than the next one. 9-2 Adrian Dupont. It's 5-1 Janika, 6 Talk is Cheap, 9 Calypto, who won at Ascot on Saturday, and then it's 10-1 Bar.
I thought Charlie Deutsch gave Calypso an absolute peach. Anyway, Talk is Cheap. I liked him for the Ultima. They seem to keep running him, so that's interesting. But lads, I've got to say, Glen Rocco for me, I'm loath to say I fancy such a short-priced horse in a big handicap this far out, relatively speaking. But I love him. I think he could be really, really special. I'm excited to see him again. Any tips, Parky?
Well, yeah, I mean, that form from his Kempton race behind Glen Forza is just exceptional, really. I think Glen Forza is probably my idea of possibly an Arkle winner.
I agree. I like him for the Arkle.
The third from that race was the winner of the
Carlos de Fruitier.
Yeah, Carlos de Fruitier. And the fourth was the Gary Moore horse, I think Del Oro. That's won since. So the form is tip top, and yeah, he's going to be very tough to beat. Like you said, Talk is Cheap. I marked him down as a possible Ultima horse. He brings that class edge to the race if his runs behind Le Bagawa and Lost in Translation earlier in the season. But he wasn't great last time. I can't remember the horse that beat him, but
on the blind side,
a little bit disappointing performance. Yeah. On the blind side it was, yeah. But look, he's rated 145, I think. There could be a bit more in his mark. He just might have bumped into one in Glen Rocco, I think.
Yeah, interesting to see Janika in there as well, Stu. He brings Cheltenham handicap form very much into the equation. Yeah,
absolutely. And I mean, you've got the likes of Calypto in there who could be out again under a penalty.
Yep.
I'd say it won't happen, but Paul Nicholls might have even considered it for the top 8 surname.
He'd have had to, wouldn't he?
He is doing anything and everything to amass as much prize money as he possibly can at the moment. And I think the issue that I have with races like this, these competitive handicaps at this time of the season, it's a real guessing game as to... Obviously, we've got Cheltenham, we've got Aintree coming up, big targets there, and trainers will want to be winning races there. If you're going to be winning there, winning here doesn't do you a world of favours unless it's getting you into a race. If you're already guaranteed a run, then actually you're hurting your chances more than you're helping them. So I always look at this time of year and in these kind of races to the trainers that are more minded to win races now.
Today, yeah.
Gary Moore sticks out, Paul Nicholls sticks out, Nigel Twiston-Davies. They're the sort of trainers that at this time of year, they're just banging in winners. They want to win races. Gary Moore's got Baron Alco in there, and he's sort of the first horse that my eye was drawn to. But Nigel Twiston-Davies has two, Creve Hill and Flying Angel. I like the two of them, and at the moment that's probably how I'd play this race, those two against the field. I think Flying Angel, if I had to come down on one, his last two runs have been progressively better than the run before. He's dropping down the weights. He's a Grade 1 winner in his own right as a novice at the entry meeting, and yeah, he's got the class. He's only 8 years old, and he's dropped, I think, 142, which looks a very tempting mark. And yeah, I can see Nigel.
A little bit better recently, hasn't he?
Yeah, exactly. He seems to have turned the corner a bit. I mean, he's been well beaten both times, but he's run better with each of his last three runs. Each one's been an improvement on the last.
Yeah. Before we go for a break, I do just want to go back to what you were talking about, particularly Glen Forza, because he won on Friday, the Kingmaker at Sandown. Now, I know we can say Kalashnikov now, he doesn't like going that way round, but I'm seriously in love with this horse. Like, he's my idea of an Arkle bet. I know it's difficult to sort of sum up the race, but he was so impressive, wasn't he?
Little pocket rocket, isn't he? He's
awesome.
He gets horses out of the comfort zone. So if there's something not right with Kalashnikov, if his jumping wasn't brilliant, if he's going to get a bad jumper, he'll rule them out the race. And look, the Arkle has got a very open feel to it, and he's just going to go and run and gallop and jump. And I think he's got a good chance in the Arkle. I'm not quite convinced that there's a top class horse there. They've seemed to, Larichberg aside, everyone's been beating everyone.
Yeah.
I certainly couldn't have Kalashnikov, whether he's going left-handed, right-handed. He needs.
Maybe he's just not as good as some people thought he was.
Got the speed, I don't think, for 2 miles. But yeah, I think he's got a good Arkle chance. I'd probably be siding with him at this stage at the current prices.
So would I. Definitely really like him. Stu, anything to add on Glen Forza? Remember, when he won at Chepstow, that was nearly 3 miles, so you've got no worries about him getting up that hill.
Yeah, I mean, I'd always had him down as more one for the JLT in my mind than
they did say that was a possibility, didn't they?
Yeah, so I mean, with what he did at Sandown, you can't knock him for going down the Arkle route. So he's not been a horse that's been on my radar too much for the race until that performance. It was very good. You don't know quite what he's beaten, because obviously the one thing we can say categorically is Kalashnikov has not run up to his very best in the race. So there's hopefully a reason there. It's not just that he's soured, or that is what he's capable of. We know he's capable of better than that. So yeah, by all means, I wouldn't want to put anyone off him, but he's probably not at the top of my pile for the Arkle at the moment.
You're calming me and Parky down a little bit. Maybe we just got a bit excited.
There'll be a few burnt fingers for that Close Brothers race, because he well and truly blew his chance at running in that, because I think he was around 6 or 7 to 1 for that. So
but hey, the Arkle and the JLT are worth a lot more money.
Oh,
so
absolutely.
If you're the owners, go for it. Binners, we do have to go for a break, but really quickly, have you got a price on Glen Forza for the Arkle and the JLT?
Yeah, we thought he was more likely to go for the JLT immediately after the race last week. Maddie, he's 6 to 1 from 14 to 1, but for the Arkle we went 8 to 1 from 20, but money's forced him into 6 to 1 now. So if the money's right, it looks like he might more likely turn up in the Arkle. But of course, Paddy Power, non-runner, no bet on all races at Cheltenham, so you can back him for both and get your money back on one.
Yeah, Binners, can you just give me 8 to 1 instead of 6 to 1 for the Arkle, because I've missed the boat there. Anyway, on that note,
do that, Maddie. You have to be a bit quicker.
Anyway, on that note, we'll go for another break.
Check out Paddy's Rewards Club. Simply place 5 bets of £10 or more across any sport in a week, and you'll get a free £10 bet the next week. T&Cs apply. 18+. BeGambleAware.org.
Welcome back to this final instalment of the Monday Postcast. It's the midweek racing section. I'll run through them first off. Tuesday, we've got Wetherby, Taunton, Wolverhampton. Wednesday, we've got Punchestown, Ludlow, Newcastle, Doncaster, Chelmsford, Wolverhampton. Thursday, we've got Sedgefield, Thurles, Huntingdon, Southall, Chelmsford, Wolverhampton. Friday, Catterick, Exeter, Warwick, Lingfield, Chelmsford. And breathe. Right, good week in prospect, guys. Lorena, we could see her. There's a Grade 3 novice hurdle at Thurles on Thursday. There's a Devon National on Friday. Got a nice handicap hurdle tomorrow at Taunton. What are we fancying?
I think Lorena's obviously the talking point. Given what the weather is doing at the moment, There must be in their reluctance to run her on anything other than good to soft ground.
Run at Cheltenham then?
Well, I mean, I'm on quite a big double on Apple's J to win the Champion Hurdle and Lorena to win the Mares, so I'm kind of hoping that this run doesn't happen on Wednesday.
Okay.
They might just swerve this because if the ground's not suitable for it, if it hasn't been suitable for all season, I don't get how it.
But if it's
I can
not
understand
suitable
by
for
rolling
in the Champion, why would it be suitable for in the Mares either?
But I think you roll the dice at it's fine to roll the dice at Cheltenham because that is what her season's orientated around. I've just got a feeling that I think the owners are very keen to run in the Champion Hurdle, but I think Willie Mullins is desperate to run her in the Mares really, and maybe I think if she runs on Wednesday, that boosts her Champion Hurdle hopes because they've got another run into her. I think they would be a bit reluctant to go for a Champion Hurdle if she doesn't get this run in, and she'll only be going in after one run this season. And I think she will probably be going for the Mares then if she misses Wednesday.
Yeah, very interesting. Stu, anything catch your eye out and about this week?
Yeah, two things. Real Steel has a entry over fences at Thurles, which I thought was worth mentioning. Obviously, some decent hurdle form last year. And then there's one horse that caught my eye among the entries at Warwick. He's in a juvenile hurdle there.
Which day is this on Friday?
This is I think Warwick is the Friday, yeah. So there's a horse called Faldo, trained by Ian Williams, right? And the thing that I thought was very interesting about it is he will be running in the JP McManus Green and Gold Silks. Now, he didn't run in them last time on his hurdles debut. He finished second to a JP horse in Laskadine. Wasn't given too hard a race that day. And obviously JP has an absolute abundance of juvenile hurdlers at the moment, so what's he gone and bought this one for? Really caught my eye. I think of him, I see him as maybe a bit of a Fred Winter prospect, so I'll be interested to see how he gets on if he does run at Warwick. And yeah, he was the horse that really caught my eye this week.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. We did spy that, a few of us in the office earlier on this week. I think Ian Williams might have said, please correct me if I'm wrong, I'm sure many people will, that it's his first horse owned by JP McManus. Does that sound right? Yeah. And like you say, very interesting that the horse that beat him was owned by JP. Binners, where have you been looking at this week?
Got one for the flat fans, Maddie. In the lucky last at Wolves tomorrow in the 7 furlong fillies novice at 8:30. A horse called Agiana for Clive Cox. Ran a respectable third on debut at Chelmsford. Slowly away, did a bit short of room leaving the stalls. And I think she could well go well at the West Midlands track tomorrow night.
Perfect. Now it's time for your midweek naps.
This will not be beaten.
Tom Park, you're hoping Lorena doesn't run, but what is your midweek nap?
There's a horse of Gordon Elliott's called It's All Guesswork it's entered in the Pertemps qualifier at Punchestown on Wednesday, which is obviously a bit of a minefield of a race. I like at this stage of the season, these horses at the top of the weights, they don't really want to be winning if they've got real festival aspirations. This horse is running off 1-2-4 towards the bottom of the weights. He was third in the Munster National last time. He fell in the Munster National, last time, but he was probably going to finish at least third that day. And he ran off 1:30. Then he runs off just 1-2-4 over hurdles today on Wednesday, and I think that he's got a good chance. He'd have to win very impressively to get into the Cheltenham race off that kind of mark. So this is probably his Pertemps final, I think, and I just thought it was an interesting entry from Gordon Elliott.
Nice one, yeah, like that, Stu.
I'll keep it simple and go with Faldo.
Perfect. And Binners?
Sticking on the flat, 3:45 Newcastle on Wednesday, the 6 furlong condition stakes. Archie Watson, what a brilliant young trainer this fellow is. He's got a horse called Quiet Endeavour. Holly Doyle's going to take the ride. Gelded over the winter, been a bit disappointing on his last 2 starts, including when favourite for the Group 3 Cyrenia Stakes at Kempton. If he can bounce back from those efforts, I think he'll go close.
Fantastic, and that brings us to the end of the show. As always, remember to rate, review and subscribe wherever you're listening to us from. Tomorrow we've got our anti-postcast. We covered the Albert Bartlett and the Champion bumper in that one. The golf postcast is on Wednesday with the football on the Thursday, and on Friday Bruce will be back as usual to cover the weekend's cards, so make sure to join him then. In the meantime, best of luck with your bets. Goodbye.
Follow Paddy Power on Snapchat. The username is ThePaddyPower, and we promise there won't be any boring snaps about gigs, the weather or the gym.